Right, we battled earlier on with connecting to France, and I think it's such an important issue. We have to try, try again. So the third time of asking now. Let's find out more about what's happening with that French election, and hopefully we've got it all sorted out now. Right, good. Once again, good morning. Salaam alaikum. Hope you are there now.
Salam alaikum. Can you hear me?
Yeah, much better. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you
much
so much.
better.
Thank you.
Excellent.
That's
Sorry for that.
Rum. I'm just following you on Twitter as I talk to you. So Rum Sarais is your Twitter handle. Got that right. Okay. So yeah, we said lots of things. Perhaps I'm going to leave it to you. Right. What is defining this presidential election runoff?
Well, first to answer the question about anti-Muslim bigotry, for years, whether it's Macron's administration or the previous ones, we have been pandering to the far right. Everybody took a hard right turn. And of course, what was expected to happen happened again. We have a second runoff between Macron and the far right. And again, we are being asked to save the Republic. So it's very interesting to see how the campaign was actually extremely weird this time. Emmanuel Macron barely campaigned, really. I think one of the reasons was really the war in Ukraine. And Marine Le Pen kind of rebranded her party, trying to make it more close to the people, trying to remove, all the scandalous, racist shenanigans that she's used to compared to Eric Zemmour, her far-right nemesis, even though do not be fooled by this facelift. Marine Le Pen's program is still racist. It's white supremacist. It's anti-Muslim. It's anti-Semitic. So, it's a very tense election, knowing that this time, and that's really the first time I'm saying that, she really has high chances to win.
Okay, so that's interesting. So just to go back to, for those that may not remember, I mean, that party of Marine Le Pen was started by her father, if I'm not mistaken, and extremely right wing, right? What were they propagating before, and what is the shift now? Whether it's just convenience or not, what are they actually saying to be able to catch the majority of people as opposed to the far right wing?
So the origins of the far right really finds their roots into white supremacy. Really, the superiority of white European culture over immigrants. It's Jean-Marie Le Pen did the war of Algeria. He committed acts of tortures and so on, and the far right has never recovered from the war of Algeria. So they hold this feeling quite strong against, French Muslims who are born and raised in France, right? And they are also extremely anti-Semitic, extremely racist. Jean-Marie Le Pen was condemned multiple times for his racist stance and also for his revisionism. For example, he would declare that, gas chamber were quote unquote a detail of history, which obviously is unacceptable, right? And so on. And when his daughter took over the party, she started to rebrand the party as almost like a social party, close to the people, close, to the main concern, especially social and economics, and try to erase, her father kind of touch on the party. It took her some time, but many took the bait to the point that today even the classical right-wing, conservative party actually are divided and are also tempt to join this party. But again, don't be fooled. It's still the same soul. It's a racist party.
So in a nutshell, then, what would be the election line of both candidates? One versus the other. What's the big thrust of both of them?
Well, there are a lot of things to blame about Macron. Really, he has passed laws that directly violate civil liberties, weaken civil liberties. We basically lived under a permanent state of emergency country, really. But both candidates are still very different. I still make a difference. You indeed have a candidate, Emmanuel Macron, who is known for his arrogance, for even running the country a bit like Napoleon, a one-man show where everything, happens around this person. But we still have the rule of law working, right? You still have access to justice. You still have way, to counter this, even though it's getting more and more difficult. When it comes to Marine Le Pen, she's an authoritarian at heart. When you look at what she's planning to do, like using multiple time referendums, for example, to bypass parliament, or reestablishing diplomatic relations with authoritarian states. Right now, she just announced that she wants to reinstate diplomatic relations with Bashar Assad, who is known for being, a horrific barbarian dictator who is killing his people. She has very close tie to Vladimir Putin, including financial one. So definitely this would bring France into an extremely, extremely dark place.
Okay, now because the majority audience on this Salam Media platform are of Islamic or Muslim persuasion, I think they'd be particularly interested in terms of what you said, in terms of what does the outcome mean for the Muslims of France, because for whatever reason there's a brotherhood, or there's a sisterhood, there's a sort of Ikhwan connection, that no matter where we are, if somebody else is a Muslim, there's a connection you have with them. So we have an interest in what happens to the large minority Muslim community of France, depending on who wins this election.
Oh, they will. If Marine Le Pen wins, clearly the Muslims will pay the high price. And not, it starts with Muslims, and it will affect in general vulnerable communities, Muslims, refugees, immigrants, poor people, right? But the Muslims will again pay the price of being considered as undesirable in this country, even though it's their country as well. They will be the victims of legal discrimination against them, and they will see their basic human rights blatantly violated. And if Macron wins, Muslims have one solution: take their votes, go to the polls, and make a change during the legislative election if they want a change. And they have the power to do that. Right now, Macron is actually trying to get the votes of the very people whose policies he implemented affected directly. And he knows very well that he cannot downplay this. So if he's elected, they have a chance to make a stand for the legislative election in June. Now, and we haven't talked about it, 27% of the population as a whole didn't go to vote, which in itself is extremely problematic. So regardless, never take democracy for granted. It's an ongoing fight.
Well, there you are. I mean, I'm looking at your tweet. You're saying grab your popcorn. I think it is right. Yes. And I love popcorn when I'm not fasting. Yeah. Macron congratulated and complimented a French Muslim woman for wearing a headscarf, being a feminist. Now that's quite significant. So you never really know motives of people. I understand that, right? And people shift according to try and speak to a certain constituency, right? But does it sound as bizarre as it may sound? It may have sounded before, that for this point in time, it's possible many of the Muslim votes would actually go the Macron way as the lesser of two evils.
When you have to choose between the plague and cholera, you have to keep in mind that cholera can be cured with an antibiotic, right? And he's the less of the two evil. But regarding this video, I think it's very interesting because it is a problematic video as well. When you think that during his presidency, especially his ministers, because let's face it, I don't think Macron cares much about the headscarf, really. His administration, though, has been quite anti-Muslim on this point. But he reached out to her. I think it was genuine, but it's also extremely anti-Muslim. It's just show how anti-Muslim bigotry is also very entrenched, because do you think he would have asked this question to, I don't know, a nun wearing her religious attire, or a person of a Jewish face wearing a kippah, or a Sikh wearing a turban, and so on?
Or alternatively, because I love football so much, a person greeting him with a Paris Saint-Germain football top. Like, what difference does it make, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So it just shows how much work we have to do to basically stop treating Muslim women as some, political tool. Stop objectifying Muslim women and women as a whole. We should consider women as full human being and not treat them according to the way they dress or what they believe in or not believe in and so on. And it's valid for every political groups, all religious groups, right? So it was a very interesting video to see, but it also showed that he's desperate.
Okay, got that. I'll tell you what, I plan to speak to you post this election. Let's see what comes out of it. And I think we must thank you for your wonderful insight. Certainly gets me thinking about a lot of things. Feel free, by the way, to tag me on some of your tweets and tag Salam Media. I'll gladly share that. I mean, I'm looking at your tweet that you've pinned, and this maybe is the essence of all the things we've been speaking about, saying, I dream of a day when we stop referring to the Muslim population in France as French Muslims or Muslims in France or French of XYZ background, but just as French. Boring, plain French, which suggests that you just get on with your lives and not anything else. Appreciate your time. Rim Sarah Alouane, appreciate your time. Thank you for your insights. I will talk soon. Inshallah.
Thank you so much. It will be my pleasure, inshallah. Ramadan Kareem.
Ramadan Kareem to you as well. There you are. Well, that's so interesting. And this presidential runoff is imminent. Let's see what happens next with a country. Does France, I'm trying to get it right, does France have the largest Muslim population as a percentage, well, in numbers and as a percentage of the population in the whole of Europe? I think they do, right? Just for the moment, exclude where Turkey fits in, whether the European region. That's another whole conversation in its own right. Well, how do you get the best out of Ramadan? We'll talk about that. And as part of our Champion South Africa feature, we're going to speak to someone who does champion South Africa.